Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Sports Interval. This week, I've got my favorite, I've got my usuals. We've got Vuyo Zangqa, former Springboks Sevens player. We've got Sisa Mafu, former Blue Bulls player. We've got Sbu Mjikeliso, an author, and also part of News 24. Gentlemen, welcome. And I won't waste any time, gents. This one, we want to focus on the Rainbow Cup. We want to focus on the British and Irish Lions. Sbu, starting off with you. You've written an article about a week or two ago. Explain to us, just in short snippets, Rainbow Cup, what is it? When are we expected to play? And then I will spread out the conversations to the other gentlemen in terms of what our expectations are. And looking from what the Currie Cup was, can we manage participating with the European sides?
Yeah, so Rainbow Cup, I can't explain the name. Pro 16 she would have been like just a simpler way for everybody. But, you know, that's part of the criticism. I mean, overseas, they're really having a go at the name because only South Africans can really resonate with the rainbow. I mean, we are the rainbow nation. So the Scottish and the Irish and the Italians are looking at us, and the Welsh looking at us like, why must we bend over backwards to accommodate these South Africans? Nonetheless, it's a 16-team competition, obviously, with the four South African Big Four. The Cheetahs are out, the Southern Kings have folded. And it's going to be, it's supposed to start in April, 17th of April. It's supposed to be 2 pools of 8 with the winners of each pool making it to the final and then, you know, competing for the tournament. However, the reports are that, you know, it's only a 1-year deal. So this is what makes it a precarious deal between SA Rugby and, you know, the Celtic nations and Italians that own pro rugby, I'd say. Is that if it doesn't work in the first year, the other teams can go back to their Pro 12. So they've got this exit clause where if it just doesn't fit right and doesn't feel right or whatever. The other impediment is, of course, the pandemic. So if it doesn't go ahead as planned, there's huge sacrifices that might have to be made in South Africa's view. In that, there might not be a Currie Cup at the end of this year because, you know, usually they'll play their Pro 12 or Pro 14, you know, started towards the end of the year when we start our Currie Cup and then finish it around this time of the year, the following year. So they've had to actually rush their season. They've had to truncate their matches to finish. I think they're finishing off in the next few weeks to allow the start of the Rainbow Cup, to allow a few months of preparation for the start of the Rainbow Cup. So there's been a lot of negotiation that has gone on in the background, trying to put all of this together. And, you know, COVID can just scupper the whole thing. It would be beneficial if it does go ahead, in that the South African players can get a good hit out against Europeans whom they'll face in the British and Irish Lions test, which I think will go ahead because there's just no way they can postpone it to next year. Logistically, it's going to be a nightmare. Financially, they can't have another year where there's just a big financial hole in South African rugby. So they would rather take a bubble Lions tour than you know, no Lions tour and have to push it back to 2022. And how many things have been pushed to 2022? So everybody's looking at that slot. So and also that you're then giving up your chance of playing in the rugby championship possibly two straight years. So there's a lot that needs to be done for rugby in this country to be played at that high level. My only gripe is that they're going into the new competition. They've still not negotiated a way to have some relegation and promotion system that is fair and that works. I mean, you can't lock in 4 teams forever. I don't care how big they are. We've seen that not all 4 teams are big at the same time, you know. So for me, you need to give the cheaters an impetus to say, win one of the domestic trophies, and you get a slot in the next competition. Heck, not even just the cheaters. Give the other unions a fair crack to say, that's how, I mean, how are you going to raise the standard of, you're talking about raising the standard of the Currie Cup and stuff. How are you going to add incentive when the Pumas and the Griquas know that they're going to get a pounding every single time, and they can't contract players because there's no real incentive. They'll play there, but, you know, they're going to get a beating. How are you going to reinvigorate what they're trying to do at the Eastern Province Elephants, you know, by bringing in Peter de Villiers and the like? How are you going to get domestic rugby up for rugby again? You know, when all you've done is create the separation of the classes again. So that for me is my biggest gripe, is you have another blank slate. Yet you don't use the opportunity to properly say there's a fair crack at promotion, you know, for other teams.
Yeah, I want to bring in Vuyo. I mean, this decision of joining the European sides, obviously you were part of the Kings and you guys basically got knocked off basically. I mean, how much of an impact did this have in terms of you guys being jobless? I mean, having a job one time and then the next minute within a space of a couple of months, obviously now people are jobless within the Kings environment. And now they mention a competition like the Rainbow Cup and you guys are not involved anymore. I mean, it's a whirlwind of a lot of things happening. How was that situation on your behalf?
Yeah, I think for me, it was different. Obviously, I was very fortunate to able to pick up a job soon after that. But I mean, for most of the guys, the manager Zingi is still sitting in Cape Town with no job. Keeps getting calls about interviews, but nothing is coming. I'm pretty sure Robbie is exactly the same. Robbie's probably gone more into the commentary now, full time. The analyst is sitting in PE with no job. So I think it's been tough. I mean, some players have even gone and go back to school. I talked to Stefan Ungra yesterday. He could be in Durban, just sitting doing nothing. This is probably one of the best players, scrum halves I've seen in a long time. I mean, he's got good height. He's got a good kicking game. It's just so it's just a lot for everyone. But again, Sbu's talking about a blank page going into the season without the cheaters knowing what's going on. Again, it goes back to SA Rugby. SA Rugby is the one that let the Kings down. SA Rugby didn't do their due diligence in terms of who are these guys wanting to take ownership of one of the franchises. And even then, yes, COVID hit, but it could have been prevented. It could have been, there were so many things that they could have done. But instead of saving the province, they decided to save their paychecks for December and January in the following year. So, yeah, so that's unfortunate. It is like that, and that's where we are now. But in terms of the Rainbow Cup, I think Sbu is spot on in terms of the pandemic might hit and damage things if it continues. Because in Europe, there's already talk that South Africa's got a different virus to the rest, which is crazy. But
yeah, the South African strain.
Yeah, the South African. Yeah, they're very. So imagine now you have to go to South Africa only to play maybe 2 weeks. What are the chances that you're gonna fly 14 days quarantine and then start playing? It's gonna be literally land Monday, probably get tested on the Thursday. Will the game go on? Won't the game go on? So they'll probably have to take more players to try and accommodate in case they lose a couple on the way. But it's gonna be, for me, I'm just interested to see what's gonna happen. I hope especially for colleagues back in South Africa and rugby people that we get some rugby.
No, fair. Vickers. Sisa, Rainbow Cup, what does it mean to you? I mean, what does it mean to South Africans? Who speaks about the UK people basically not knowing, not resonating, not finding any
rubbishing the idea.
Exactly. They don't find any connection for Rainbow with them to find to basically, you know, psych themselves up for a competition unknown. They really see this as a waste of time, if I might put it bluntly. What is your expectations when it comes to this competition?
So from a positive perspective, you know, it's a fresh new competition that South African teams are obviously involved in. I think also the time, what do you call this thing?
The time zones,
the time zones also obviously suit South Africans. The games will be playing in more times that we are, you know, used to watching games in the afternoon, where we obviously braaiing, etc., having a drink, whatnot. But on a negative sort of perspective, it just feels propped up. It just feels like there's too much instability. Not a lot of negotiations have gone into, you know, this competition, and even if they had or even when they have had these negotiations, they just feel like, it just feels like the negotiations weren't, you know, completed, or they didn't run their course, so that we all feel confident that, you know, this is a strong competition that we can look forward to for the next few years. Like Sbu said, you know, a 1-year contract that maybe will get renewed next year, maybe might not. I mean, what happens when it doesn't get renewed? What happens? Do we go back to Super Rugby? Do we try to find another home? Do we try get into French top 14 maybe? You know, so it's up in the air, and it just feels like, you know, SA Rugby is trying to find a home right now, and no one's, you know, playing, you know, ball with them at the moment. But from a rugby perspective, I think it will be nice to see, you know, guys play regularly in those northern hemisphere conditions, especially, you know, a Bulls, a Stormers, a Sharks, and a Lions team. You know, seeing them on a weekly basis playing in those conditions will also be nice to see. Also, obviously for some of our coaches, they will have, you know, a challenge on their hand, where they're not playing in a dry Ellis Park or a dry Newlands every Saturday. Now the coaching sort of spectrum will be tested, and that for me at least is a light at the end of the tunnel to look forward to. But yeah, that's my take on Rainbow Cup. Very, very unstable or unstable for me, but I mean, we're in it now, and we just need to make the best of it, I guess.
In it to win it. Gentlemen, how does this help us with the big British and Irish Lions tour coming up, in terms of experience playing against European sides, getting to know the players that you'll be playing against for a month during the British and Irish Lions tour?
Yeah, I think Pravik, you'll understand this, having been in the Pro 14. Playing European sides, British sides, is a different concept altogether than playing our Southern Hemisphere neighbors. You know, I worry about the South African teams, not because of the quality we've had against each other. I mean, South African derbies, by and large, are hard, you know, things to take in. You know, they're not palatable at times. But we're usually freer, you know, with other cultures, because the cultural clash kind of allows us space on the field to try our own things as well. But the problem is that British rugby will not give any of that. In 2009, the Springboks were the dominant team in world rugby, and they still came to within a Mornay kick and a Jacques Fourie very touch and go try in the corner from losing the Lions series. 2009 is probably South Africa's best ever year in rugby ever. So you're talking about a Springbok team that hasn't played since the World Cup final in 2019. You've got, I worry about Siya Kolisi, who's not battle ready for me. His performance in the semi-final for Western Province left much to be desired. And you're not even talking about that level. You've got your number one fly half 100 Pollard, who's been sitting idle since his ACL injury. You had 4 locks sustain major injuries from your World Cup team. You're trying to blood in a new fullback as well, possibly. The players in Japan haven't even played yet. So your Magazole Mapimpis, Creels, and Villies, they've been hit by COVID so badly that side that they've not been able to start top league rugby. I worry that this is sending the sheep to the wolves. We're really just leading the Springboks to get eaten up here. I don't know what SA Rugby can do, but they need to do it
very fast.
They need to do it pretty quickly, and by do I mean organize high intensity competition for the Springboks as we know them. Maybe even go for a tour to Argentina would be my recommendation in the interim while everybody is in preseason for the Rainbow Cup. Go for an old traditional tour where you can quarantine, you can go there, you can play three matches, a traditional tour. Even to Australia, I think Australia.
Not to cut you. I mean, won't we be apprehensive in terms of results? Since, like you mentioned, I mean, we haven't played for quite a long time. Now we go to Argentina, get walloped 3-0, or go to Australia, get walloped 3-0. In terms of Springboks brand, are we doing ourselves justice? Because there'll be naysayers. As much as you have a good heart in what you're saying, I mean, there will be people with that kind of attitude and thinking and saying, "Hey, whoa, hang on a second," because I mean, we look at how we decided to not play in the Rugby Championship. We made similar excuses in terms of, we haven't played so much rugby, we're not battle ready, so let's not take part. And then Argentina rocks up, not having played anything, and I mean, they pulled one of the biggest upsets in world rugby. And drew twice against Australia, who also had a Super Rugby unlock situation. There's a whole lot of things going around that we need to juggle.
I think Sbu is spot on, Phila, on this, because look at, for example, who's going to be our starting 9? Because we have to start looking for a starting 9. We don't have a starting 10 currently. Okay, we don't have a starting 15 currently. Yes, we've got wings, but Sbu Mjikeliso is looking all right. So I think it's just a matter of, I think we have to go take this tour, like your old traditional tour. The way that people see view the results will be dependent on the message to the media. If SA Rugby takes on, for example, say, okay, we're gonna go to Italy and quarantine. Yes, we might lose to Italy. The Springbok brand is it's not good, or maybe even Argentina or Australia. But if the conversation with the media is, guys, we're still building, we're trying to get a Springbok team together after the World Cup, we're still trying to do this, and without deviating from the message, even if you win, the conversation must be exactly the same. We're still not happy where we are. We're still building. We're still trying to build a Springbok brand so that we can play against British and Irish. Because I can tell you now, if you ask any South African, which would you rather do? Would you rather lose to Argentina and win British and Irish, or would you rather win Argentina and lose to British and Irish? Everyone's going to take British and Irish. And that's what we want, and that's what every South African wants. So we must be thinking, how can we build the Springbok brand? Because we're going to get pumped. We're going to get pumped if we go in with this preparation that we've had so far. I don't know what Sisa thinks about it.
Gents, it's a tough one. You know, when you actually spend time and you think about the amount of time between now and the next game of rugby that our guys are going to play collectively, because I mean, now Currie Cup's finished, right? This Pro 16 only starts in April. That's a whole quarter, you know. That the guys won't be playing rugby. What are they going to be doing in that time? You know, what is the Springbok management going to be doing with the greater squad in that time? Are they going to be doing anything? So I'm very interested to see what's going to be happening in the next 3 months. You know, because it's just I'm struggling to find where the Springbok team will find enough time for them to get together, gel, similar to last year where they had 20 weeks before the Rugby World Cup where they were together, etc. Where they're gonna have a similar sort of situation, because we all know, even Sbu just said now, a British and Irish Lions tour is serious. It's serious rugby. It's serious business. Hence, they want to have it, whether they have it in Australia, whether they have it back in the UK or wherever. It's serious rugby that they want to have, and they want to play the Springboks, and they want to beat the Springboks, especially after last year's or the previous year's World Cup final with England. So we in a very serious situation now that needs clarity for everyone involved, and obviously the rugby loving public, because it's just difficult to see a light at the end of the tunnel for anything Springboks right now, to be quite honest.
Sbu, Jeds is mentioned a couple of.
Phila, just want to. You know what would have been interesting? We've always had a Springbok announcement straight after the Currie Cup final or the next game. It would have
on the day.
On the day. It would have been so nice to just have a Springbok announcement just for training, even if it's just to get together,
like a camp.
Just to get the excitement around the team. And I mean, nothing. We don't even know what's going on. There's like no plans to, like Sisa say, there's no plans. We don't know when is the team gonna get together.
It's a joke. Fair enough. It's a joke, Rafik. Actually, you know what? When you put it like that, because I mean, even in a normal year, you expect the Springboks to camp, bring in players from the outskirts to look at them at the very least. I mean, you can't look at last year we were supposed to play Scotland and Georgia. Those were supposed to be the tests that were supposed to see if Aphelele Fassi is test ready. How are we going to see now? Like, sure, he battled hard against the Bulls, but I thought there were a couple of high balls that he could have collected and didn't. Maybe it's because he was injured and he had an operation just after the restart and is just trying to come back. Grassi needs to see, Jacques Ninaba needs to see these players with his own eyes. Kerwin Bosch played a Springbok test, but not really a Springbok in the true sense. Oxenchair needs to be brought closer to the fold to see whether he will fill in that beast role. Lizo Koboga needs to be brought into the fold because he's a one test Bok as well. A lot of players that need to be seen firsthand before they can actually wear the jersey. Sanele Nohamba was in that green versus gold team, but suddenly he didn't play the final, lost his place in the final. What's wrong? What happened? Bring him in closer. You can't get that close to a Springbok call-up, and then you can't even make the starting 15 for the Currie Cup final. Not to say that he's done anything wrong, but come and see what are the traits that Sean saw and didn't see, and that made him start Jaden Hendricks ahead of him. There's lots of things up in the air. Who's the starting 12? Can you start Cornel Hendricks? Now that maybe it would be a little harder.
Yeah, man, gentlemen, we could continue for another hour, but unfortunately, time is limited. I'd like to thank you guys for making this such a wonderful conversation.